Okay, everybody, we are back. Episode 27.
Look at us.
27.
Who
Look at
would've
that.
thought?
So cool. Of the More Doors podcast. Happy New Year. Super excited. This is our first show of the year. I definitely want to take a second after the break and talk a little bit about our journey here, but super exciting. We got a great show for you today, ready to knock the socks off of 2024. And we'll be back with our guest and an amazing episode right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show, episode 27 of the More Doors podcast. I'm here with my very handsome, very intelligent co-host, Brian Force. What's up, B?
Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
What did you do for New Year's?
Had a great party with some friends and the kids and ate well and had a couple of glasses of champagne. It was good. What about you?
Same. I went to Vegas. I won like $10 million.
We're going to start off with a lie.
We are starting off
Not
with a lie.
Not a good way.
We don't shoot the podcast live. Secrets exposed, guys. I'm sure it was super fun. Whatever I did.
Nice. You're so funny. All right. So we have an amazing guest on joining us today. But before we do that, let's take a note to our sponsors. Give our sponsors a nod.
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to let you go all the way through. I'll take it.
Go ahead.
In no particular order, let's talk about Tour Studios. That's Tore Studios. If you want to up your content game, whether you're shooting a new podcast, you just want to do some one-off content, whatever your multimedia needs are, check out Tore Studios, tourstudios.com. Connect with Jesse Showalter over there. He's the one who makes all of this happen. And when you're done with that and you want to get started or continue on your wealth building journey, you want to build up your passive income, you want to create generational opportunities for you and your loved ones, head on over to deepbluere.com. That's the home of Deep Blue Capital. 2024 is going to be a massive year for us. We've got a full pipeline and we're presenting more opportunities to our investors every week. So check out deepbluere.com and fill out your investor profile to see what we're up to over there.
Nice. Well done, Pete.
Thank you, buddy.
So quick, before we jump into our conversation with our guest, I thought 2023 was quite the year, huh?
It was a doozy.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I mean, we had a rapidly changing environment. We started to see some distressed deals out there. We did 26 episodes of the More Doors podcast. So thanks to you and Nick Good, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, and J-Dog, Jesse Showalter himself. Right. It's amazing.
It's been a journey.
It has
so far.
It is.
I feel like I learned more in 2023 about markets and investing, leadership, humans than I think I learned in the 10 years combined before that.
Really?
Well, I think that whenever you're in a quickly changing landscape in a lot of different ways, economically, and you're trying to continue to build and persevere through a lot of variables, like there's only so much you can read in books. You got to experience it. And I think that we experienced a lot in the back half of 2022 and all through 2023 that people will look back on and read about in books as they prepare to go live the next cycle.
Yeah.
And I feel like we got to live through that. And, objectively it came with good and bad, but from my perspective is nothing but a blessing.
Yeah.
So it's, it was a great opportunity to learn and grow and become the next version of ourselves.
I agree. We definitely got some dirt under our fingernails and a couple of bumps and bruises last year, but I think we ended the year in a great position, and I'm very, very excited for what we're going to do this year. I know we have a lot of stuff going on, and we're being very selective, right? Very picky, very detail oriented, but I'm sure that a couple of these opportunities that we've been working on are going to come right into our strike zone, and we're going to be ready to execute.
Yep.
But in order to be ready to execute, you got to get your mind right.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a perfect segue to introducing our guest.
I'm excited for this one.
This guy he is the fire. He is the real deal, and he is the truth. So I do want to welcome my dear friend and just an overall amazing human being, the CEO of Sell Up Training, Mr. Brian Mayoral.
Let's grip it and rip it, fellas.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing so well, man. I'm just sitting here, and one of your first things he said, my co-host is a really good-looking guy, Brian, and then I got really excited for a second, and I didn't realize that you were talking about the other Brian. Now I'm a little bit upset that you're giving other people compliments. You know,
I just haven't gotten to you yet, man. Don't worry. There's got a fire hose of compliments that are coming your way. Just give it a second.
I'm ready. And speaking of things hitting right in the strike zone, I'm excited to be talking with you guys.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, man. What I love about, like, you ever just start talking with somebody and the energy level just raises in the room.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with guys like Brian.
It's about to get going. It's about to get
100%.
super real.
Let's
So
do it.
I would do Brian a serious injustice. We would do Brian a serious injustice if we even attempted to introduce him or read a bio of his. So Brian, why don't you take a couple minutes and tell our audience about you and what you do for people?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, fellas, I appreciate you. I started off my career as a junior high school PE teacher, rolling out basketballs for a living. Went through a bout of depression, then figured out I probably should do something different with my life. And so if you're sitting there thinking about, oh man, I'm in a hole, I don't know where to go, or I want to level up, or there's some action that I haven't taken, I've been there. I went from a junior high school PE teacher to the #1 national sales trainer and peak performance strategist for Tony Robbins. I broke multiple sales records and then started our company in 2020. And I got permission today to go where I want to go. So I've eaten the shit sandwich many times in my life. I define the shit sandwich as that area in your life where you're like, the results are not matching the effort or the inputs that I'm putting into my life. And sometimes that comes because it just hasn't worked out or things aren't in the favor of yours right now. But what I can say is if you eat the shit sandwich long enough and you keep taking actions that are bigger than your current circumstances, then eventually it works out for you. Eventually it pops for you. Eventually, like Matt said, it hits that strike zone and you will knock it out of the park. And so if you're thinking about becoming an investor and you've never done it before, you're thinking about quitting your job and going into your own gig. If you're thinking about, man, I just want to dabble into this real estate space or this investing space, but I don't know how. I don't know where to start. Where should I start? You got to go back into that mindset of eating the shit sandwich for a little bit, not being comfortable with where you're at, not being comfortable with the actions that you're required of you to get to the results. At the end of the day, how you feel about circumstances, how I feel about circumstances are irrelevant to the actions that are required for us to get to where we want to go. And if I hadn't hit multiple rock bottoms in my life, if I haven't felt uncomfortable in multiple areas of my life, I probably wouldn't have been invited on this podcast. So each one of those feelings, each one of those emotions, or each one of those tugs that you're feeling at your heart or at your life right now, it's there for a reason. You know, whatever you believe in, for me, it's personally God. If it's tugging at your heart or if it's calling you right now to level up, it's because you're capable of leveling up. And what I discovered with my time with Tony Robbins is there is nothing, absolutely nothing that can't be accomplished. One thing that we always talk about in our family and one thing that we always talk about in our company is there's always a way to a yes. I'm going to say that again. There is always a way to a yes. If you have an incredible work ethic, if you're open and willing to accept feedback, there is always a way to a yes. And I remember, Matt, when we first met, I was in Dallas. I was on one of my cycles with Tony Robbins. And after that cycle, I came in second place. And as Matt would probably help you know, I don't enjoy coming in second place very much. And Tony actually had a one-on-one conversation with me. And at that time, I'd lost my way a little bit. I was finding excuses. Oh, man, you put me in the Dallas territory. You put me with someone else in this territory. You had me do this. You had me do that. And Tony just stopped me. He's like, Brian, what the fuck's the matter with you? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing, Tony? Like, you wanted me to go and you gave me the most challenging situation. He's like, of course I did. Of course I did, because you can handle it. Like, I didn't give you a challenging situation because I didn't think you can handle it. I gave you a challenging situation because I thought you were the guy that could handle it. But maybe I was wrong. Yeah. He's like, Brian, if you want bigger actions in your life, it's going to require new, and if you want bigger results in your life, it's going to require new and different actions. But you went into this situation looking for reasons why you can't versus reasons why you could. It's time to level up. So I moved to Miami that next cycle. And he's like, Brian, you cannot move to Miami as Brian. I'm like, what do you mean, Tony? What are you talking about? He's like, you got to change your identity. He's like, Brian found a way to find excuses this entire time that he was in Dallas, Texas. And I need you to step up and be someone else. And it required me to step into a new identity. And so for those of you who want something tactical today and not just motivation, I want you to write down, what is the person that you would aspire to be? What are the top 5 qualities that they have today? And what are the bottom 5 qualities that they have? I want you to write those down. I want you to put it on a piece of paper. I want you to put the top qualities on the right side and the bottom qualities on the left side. And then I want you to identify both of those people. For me, I identified myself as Briami because I was moving to Miami. My name is Brian. And then I called the person that I didn't want to become, those qualities that I didn't like, as little bitch Brian. And so every single time I found an excuse, that was little bitch Brian talking. Every single time that I was stepping up and I was staying up later, I was asking difficult questions, I was getting uncomfortable, I was opening doors, I was finding a way to get there. That's me stepping into Briami's attitude. That's me stepping into the Briami identity. And so that cycle, after Tony gave me that talk and I stepped into new identity, is when I broke the all-time record for Tony Robbins. So for those of you who are looking to break the all-time record in your life, break the all-time record in your investments, break the all-time record in stepping out of your comfort zone today, I just want you to say that you got to eat that shit sandwich. You got to take uncomfortable action. It's time to step into that new identity. So you asked me to bring fire, Matt. I'm coming hard. Let's go.
And he's just getting warmed up.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, let's go. Right. So I like, there's so much there I want to unpack, but I do want to tell a little story. I know you love my stories. Right. So I'm scrolling through Instagram back in like 2017, I think, maybe 2018. And something pops up that, Tony Robbins peak performance workshop. Right. So I fill out the form and I talk to the lady and I get a call from Brian. A couple of days later, we set up a call and he starts asking me about what I want to accomplish. And I knew UPW was coming to Garland a couple of months later, maybe 6 months later. And so I kind of had the feeling that these two things were interrelated, and that was fine. And so Brian and I connect and we set up a training for like 8:30 on a Wednesday morning, right? Brian comes in with the black shoes, the tight jeans, the black shirt, looking like Tony Robbins. And I'm like, just this shit's going to be on, right? So we lock ourselves in this conference room. There's like 20 people, standing room
your sales
only.
Team?
Yeah, my sales team. I was working for a business intelligence startup at the time. And Brian just unleashes, right? They were completely fired up. I think we had 6 or 7 people like sign up for UPW on the spot.
Yeah.
Right. And, a bunch of, I think all of them went, not all of them finished, which is fine.
Yeah.
But of the 4 or 5 people that finished the program, right, one of them is now global sales development leader for another data warehouse startup. One is a full-time DJ. One got her dream job at Gong, and I forget what David's up to, but it all started with Brian, right? And we've kept in touch since then. And I had a very terrible 2019 personally, right? I was just in a really, really tough place, and I had spent enough time with Brian at that point to consider him a true trusted friend, right? But someone a little outside the immediate circle that would shoot me straight. Man, I was having a terrible day. I had a terrible decision that I needed to make for the life of me and my kids. And I called Brian to talk about it. And he didn't answer. And he called me back a few hours later. And I was a little scared to take the call, to be honest. And I was scared to take the call because I knew what he was going to tell me to do, right? He was going to tell me that I needed to do what I knew what was right, the right thing to do deep down inside. And without even talking to Brian, I knew the decision I had to make. Yeah. And since then, like, I have just followed Brian on his journey and how many people he impacts and what he does. And I was following him. We connected while he was Miami, right? Now he's based out of Austin, and I've had him speak a couple of times to my team at RealPage, and every time it just comes in, he just changes people and brings the best out of them. So, I told you I was going to open the fire hose of compliments. I gotta pace myself a little bit.
We still got 30
Yeah,
minutes to go.
Exactly. So Brian, ton to unpack there. Let's start. At one of your big transitions, right? So you're a junior high school teacher. You're pushing the basketballs around, and something happens. You decide you want more out of life, and you end up at Tony Robbins. So tell us a little bit about the dark place you were in, and ultimately, like, why Tony? Of all the things you could have done, why go extend Tony's reach?
Yeah, for sure. First and foremost, I love you, brother, and I'm always here for you no matter what.
Love
And
you too, man.
second, I was 35 pounds heavier than I am now. I was eating fast food, and I went through depression and started having thoughts about, like, why even be here on this planet, that kind of thing. And my best friend wanted me to go to a Tony Robbins center. He's been trying to get me to go since college. At that time, I was like 26, 27, going to Vegas and blowing all my money as a teacher on the weekends. And I hit a really low spot in my life. So Marshonda Henderson, who's still at Tony Robbins' company, gave me a call. She said, Brian, I want you to go to this event. Your buddy Chandler said that, you might be interested. And the first thing I did was hang up on her. And what did she do as a good salesperson? Call me back. So I'm literally, no lie. I have a straw hat, short shorts, and a collared t-shirt like your true gym teacher. I'm in California, not getting paid anything. I think I was making like $44,000 that year. And she calls me back. I start sweating. I hang up on her again. What does a good salesperson do?
I think we got disconnected.
She called me back. And this time I'm at recess, literally at recess, watching these kids roll around. And, I love teachers, man. And I love the impact that they want to make, but that was not my life. And so have you ever been in a situation in your life where you're like looking at life happening and you feel like you're outside the picture and it just doesn't match what you want in life? She calls me during recess. I'm literally a 20-something-year-old guy at recess. And I'm like, what is going on? So I answer the phone. She's like, Brian, there are no more tickets left. They sold out, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I ended up getting my first credit card that I ever owned. That's how safe I was playing life. I didn't understand the concept of investing like some of your listeners do. And I ended up going to this Tony Robbins event. I was wearing a full suit that I bought from Ross because I couldn't afford to go get it like a tailored suit. It's 2 or 3 sizes too big. I actually have a picture from that day that the company sent me. They just so happened to film me that day. And Tony said something from stage. He said, if you want to accomplish something that you've never accomplished before, model someone who has the results. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I had the belief that people with money couldn't be good people because I was raised in a culture that didn't have a lot of money. So they resisted people who did. And I remember thinking, well, I'm at a Tony Robbins event. This guy's changed in like 14,000 people's lives. I'm higher than a kite on life. I'm going to model him. And so that night I looked on his website and I applied for the #1 position they had in the entire company. It's like $250,000 base with a company car and room for growth and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a junior high school PE teacher, so this is a good one for me. So I applied for that mofo. Long story long, it took me 18 months. I flew myself out around the country on my own dime, volunteered for the Tony Robbins events, called and emailed every day, set up lunches, followed people on LinkedIn, flew to different parts of the country, went on different meetings just to get in front of people who worked at the company. And 18 months later, they finally gave me a shot. They gave me an audition with Tony's brother. I did the audition. I got hired on the spot. 2 weeks later, I was traveling the country with Tony's team for 3.5 years, living out of a suitcase by myself.
Wow.
Wow. See?
18 months.
Yeah.
18 months. And in that time, I went to go, I quit my teaching job and went into software sales, became the #1 guy in California for that company.
Wow. That's incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. I'm stealing it, dude. I gotta go next. I gotta go down the rabbit hole a little further. I know you got more you want to dive into.
Go.
No, I like this. Just if you watch it like it's a movie, it almost sounds like, right? You have this moment of clarity, and then you go and you take massive action behind it. We spend so much time in these limited states. There's a great book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, kind of about the upper limit problem, the way that we limit ourselves. And all of those the reason that we say that our story is different, the reason that we say that we can't do something because, and all these other people could do it because they didn't have to deal with this or that or whatever, right? Like the things that hold us back can't be solved the way that they can hold, the way that other people can solve their problems. That works for them, but it can't work for me, right? That's not all. Obviously, those are never based in reality. It's based in safety because we have a fear. We have a fear of the unknown. What we're afraid of finding out is that we are not the person that we think we're not capable of becoming the person we need to become to get to where we want to go. And so we hide from that person behind all the excuses and behind all the reasons that this won't work for us. And we should continue to play it safe and go to recess, right? And just be happy with what we've got. And there has to be, Tony Robbins is the first person to have said, all change happens in an instant. That was Brian's instant. But after that instant still comes a very human thing that is, now I've got to make a decision to quit my job and I have no idea what tomorrow is going to look like. What is it that gets you into a state where you can have that moment and then actually make the hard decision behind it? What does the day after you have that moment of clarity look like?
Yeah, great question. I think it's taking action even though you don't feel like it. And it's doing what is required to get to where you want to go. For me, at the end of the day, I look at life. It's like, what's the point of life? And I think everyone asks themselves that question. And really what comes down to me is like, is there any other option other than living the life that I believe that I'm capable of living? And I don't run a business because of money. I run a business because it's helping me become more of the human being I'm capable of becoming, helping everyone in our company grow, which means we can ultimately help more people. And I'm sure the reason why you guys have started your funds and the reason why you started this journey of investing, you want to help other people, is exactly that. You want to create the full cycle of fulfillment, which is build more, create more so that you can give more. And what you guys are doing on this call is giving more. And so anytime, for me, the way I'm wired, I'm wired on impact. So anytime that I imagine myself not accomplishing something or doubting myself, all I imagine is who are the people that it's going to hurt. Yeah. Like who's going to get impacted negatively because of my lack of action, because of my excuses, because of the reasons why I had my buts and becauses in life. You keep stacking enough buts and because you start to lose who you are. Yeah. And I call those hangups in life, the buts and becauses, keep building up. And if you ever talk to someone who feels lost, it's because they've stacked themselves underneath the mountain of buts and becauses. And those buts and becauses have gotten them confused on who they're capable of becoming. Yeah. And so I'm deathly afraid of buts and becauses, man. I'm deathly afraid of closed doors. I'm definitely afraid of not helping other people to the level that they're capable of being helped. And every door opens another opportunity. And I just want to provide one of those doors for the people that I come in contact with. So, when I talk about my journey or I talk about the things that I've accomplished, it's only for the sake of hopefully someone can find their own journey within mine or can resonate at some point. So short way of answering this would be I tie other people's pain to me not taking the action that is required.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that's such a holistic approach too. I think that's beautiful, man. And you're so right. I think that anybody who's ever been lost before can truly resonate. Anytime that I felt really lost in my life and what I was doing, I look back on those times and realized it was because I was coming up with all of the reasons why I was at where I was at, instead of just going, here's the path forward, let's get back to work and continue to grow and become the person that you need to become to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time wandering around in this sea of, this is why this is happening to me. Right. And that just, you're right. That will rob you of who you are.
Yeah. I agree with what you said. And I love what Brian said on the buts and becauses, but I think like there's also probably more so now than ever, the social pressure and the social inquisition that we all face when we say we're going to go do something drastic, right? I'm going to quit my job and go be an investor full time. I'm going to make the decision to move on in my relationship. I'm going to do whatever, right? And everybody's all of a sudden about, well, what are you going to do next? Why are you going to do that?
Yeah.
How are you going to survive? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And it gets in your head.
And it looks like everybody else is already doing amazing. Like if you're not making $1 million, you're a piece of shit, by the way. I
Right.
don't know if you knew that.
Oh, thanks. Cool.
But that's when the social media would have you believe.
No, it's true though, right? And I feel like sometimes, first you got to get past the I don't know what line what lineage happens here, but like I feel like there's multiple levels and multiple layers of stuff that you need to get through, right? It's the limiting beliefs, the social noise, the all the questions that you have for yourself, and sometimes you just kind of got to sit with yourself and say, you know what? This is just what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And I have the next 3 steps figured out. And I figure after I take the first one, I can figure out what steps 4 and 5 look like and just keep taking steps.
Yep.
I think some people just get paralyzed by the limitations and the social pressures and all the unanswered questions. And sometimes you just got to leap.
You got to leap. And obviously things come further into view the further you go.
Yeah.
But, what Brian just said a little while ago, and I wanted to even dive deeper, is like he has discovering at least some semblance of who you want to be and what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Is I think one of the things that when we feel really lost, we're just we're playing defense every day. We're trying to get through that day with as little pain as possible because we're feeling really lost and we don't know what the future looks like. We're trying to be hopeful. We're trying to be optimistic. We're very spread thin emotionally. We feel really, really pulled in all these different directions, and it just becomes this very mentally exhausting existence. And I think that one of the most beneficial things that you can do for yourself is very regularly slow things down with yourself and sit with yourself. Get out. Get out of your head and get into your mind and go deeper and allow yourself to really unravel. All things aside, who do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like? And if it doesn't look like that right now, that's got to be okay with you. But we don't spend enough time truly thinking deeply about where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And very successful people will tell you. We were fortunate enough to have Bronson Hill on last week, and very successful syndicator. And we talked about, what do you do in the business primarily nowadays? And he was very candid. He's like, I think thinking about where the business needs to go is one of the most important things that I can do, because if nobody's thinking about it, then it's just going to aimlessly wander around and we'll never get to where we're trying to go. And I don't think we do that enough that on an individual level is really truly take time regularly to think about what we want and what we're doing here and how we want to use the very limited time we have on this earth. And until we get at least some semblance of clarity around that, it can be hard to take that next step. So slowing things down, I think, is incredibly crucial.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think Brian mentioned this, like the importance of serving others, right? And I think you and I have talked about kind of a passion project of mine, and I'm going to just kind of go out and say it openly for probably the first time. Like, I believe that corporate America does not do enough to train and educate people for what to do after they become successful in their job.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about, kind of the gap in financial education in schools.
Yes.
But corporate America, I don't have a statistic. I should get one. Corporate America spends an enormous amount of money training salespeople to be very, very effective. Right. You got the guys like Brian, and you got John Barrows, and you got Chris Orlob and Ian Koniak, and the guys at 30 Minutes to President's Club. I'm going to make you the best salesperson yet. And you're going to make athlete money, and you're going to be $1 million producer. And then they train people to get there, and then it stops.
Yes.
And then we send those people out into the wilderness to go try and build generational wealth with all that money. And they're so busy with forecasts and deals and QBRs and end of quarter and soccer games, right? That some of that stuff kind of falls by the wayside, and they just listen to what the person sitting next to them at their QBR is doing financial, and then go replicate that without any sort of understanding as to whether or not that's the guiding light, right? So that's kind of a whole nother show. But like when we started this show, it really became apparent to me that that's really kind of where my calling is, and we'll see more about that unfold in 2024. But anyway, You had a soliloquy. I had a soliloquy. Let's get back to our guest. So, Brian, you make the leap, right, to go from junior high school teacher. You took the call. She called you 3 times. You take 18 months to get the job. You live out of a suitcase for 3.5 years. Give our listeners, a quick digest of what that 3.5 years was like and what exactly you did, please.
Great. I would travel the country. I would live in a different city for 3 months, and I would deliver anywhere between 75 and 110 or 120 trainings where I would train on Tony Robbins material to sales teams. And then in addition to the training on Tony's material, I would also pitch to whoever was in the audience to go to Tony Robbins seminars. And I was doing 2 or 3, sometimes 4 trainings a day, then going to networking events and, running the gamut. So it was 5 or 6 hours of sleep every day, except for Sundays. I let myself sleep on those days and just ripped it, man. I was caught up in the fire of making an impact in other people's lives. And the number one thing that I learned from that is just the different human beings that are out there in the world, but we all experience the same type of struggle. Yeah. Same struggle, whether it's someone's losing a family member or someone is just having a hard day. They're the same. Sometimes they're the same emotions. Sad is sad. Angry is angry. Pissed off is pissed off. Frustrated is frustrated. Worried is worried. It doesn't matter what's happening in someone's life. We've all experienced the same human emotions. And so learning to navigate what those human emotions are. I mean, I would go in a room and I'm there to train on Tony's material and then pitch people to go to Tony Robbins events. And then I would end up having an intervention with someone who's suicidal right in the middle of their work event. And because of what Tony does, they assume that I can do the same. And so it threw me in the fire of experiencing things and being in a authoritative position or a leadership position that I wasn't necessarily on paper ready for, but it brought the best out of me in those different scenarios. And I learned that no matter what you're selling, no matter what it is that you're doing for influence to get other people to say yes, the X factor in all of it is a deep love for human beings, a deep love for their outcomes. And if you can get to that spot, whether it's investing, whether it's partnering with someone, whether it's quitting your job and going in all in on whatever it is, you have to find a way to love yourself and then love the human beings that you're impacting because of it. That's the X factor in all of it, man. And to go back to some of your messages, like Matt, what you've figured out is like, it's the success tied with the fulfillment is the full circle. It's the full feedback loop. And when you can create that level of success and get the feedback from it, that also fulfills you as a human being. That's electric, man. That's fire. That is love. That's living in a world of generosity, a world of giving, a world of growing. And that's when it feels effortless. It feels like it's gliding. It feels like you're in alignment. And I could just tell by the way that you two interact and learning more about all the people you're helping with your investments, all the people that you're guiding to leave their job, maybe potentially, or get into investing for the first time. You've got that feedback loop. You've figured it out. You've gotten that alignment. And that's why you guys are so successful. That's why you're making the impact. And it's clear as day that I see it. And, I found at a young age what that is for me. And I just want to share that for as many people as possible. So
I love that. I love that. So let's take the next step in your journey. So you live out of a suitcase for 3.5 years, different towns every 3 months, 100 presentations a quarter. You're sleep deprived and resting on the weekends. And then one day you wake up and you're like, there's something else out there for me. So how did you come to that decision? And, let me not question crowd you. So how did you come to that decision? And what was your heart telling you that you needed to do?
Yeah, this would be timely for the time of year that we're in. Every year I do a solo retreat. And back then it was the pandemic. So there's nothing really that I could do other than go drive. And so I took a 2-week driving solo trip through the mountains from California up to Colorado, then to Utah, then back. And I did a solo snowboarding trip where I just investigated everything about my life that got me to that point, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and then where I wanted to go. And I had reached the top of the mountain at Tony Robbins. I did the records and all that kind of stuff. And I figured out where I wanted to go next. And for the first time in my career, since I left teaching, I had time to myself. where I wasn't busy all the time. And I thought about what I want. And I decided that the impact that I was able to make was bigger than what I was currently making under someone else's brand. And so I decided to leave Tony Robbins in the middle of the pandemic, when a lot of people were getting laid off. A lot of people were scared around what was going to happen in the economy. And because I learned from podcasts like yours, if you look at the Fortune 500, most of the biggest businesses in the United States today started during a time of chaos or started during a downturn. So most people are like, oh, I'm going to start when I get to a beautiful place, or I'm going to start when things are going great, or when the economy turns around, then I'm going to start investing. And people push off their life or push off their results because they think there's a better time to do it. When in reality, the biggest room for growth is when everyone else is running for the hills and you're the one that keeps running into growth and keeps running into experiences. So that's what I decided to do, because literally I would listen to podcasts just like this, and I would listen to Tony, and I understood that the best companies are the ones that start when things aren't easy, because it forces them to figure things out in a creative way. So, and I probably like a little bit more chaos than the average person just because of my upbringing. So I dove all in, and we started the training company from there, started the agency from there. We're starting a tech platform now. And I ate shit again. I realized that I was getting comfortable. And whenever I get too comfortable and realize things are getting pretty easy, I get terrified, because I know that nothing stays stagnant. Nothing just sits still. If you look at nature, which Steve Jobs is famous for, Ray Dalio is famous for, is if you look at nature, nothing just stays idle. It's either growing or it's dying, right? You guys have heard this in your life. And so whenever I feel like I'm not growing, I know that inherently I'm dying. So that's why I decided to start the company. And from there, I ate a shit sandwich, man. It was humble beginnings, because I went from being Brian at Tony Robbins to Brian. Yeah. And we bootstrapped the company since then. So there were times where I was cold calling, and there's times where I was like, oh my God, is this company going to make it? What are we going to do financially? And I willingly dove into that fire, because I knew that on the other side of that, on the other side of investing in myself, on the other side of making that decision, would become the abundant life that I know I'm capable of living. And I'd built enough trust and muscle taking action that was uncomfortable to know that I would make it regardless. And for anyone that might be hesitating or overthinking or waiting until they get there in their life, and they're waiting for the perfect timing, I would just urge you and implore you to start building confidence in yourself, to start building life momentum, and to start taking actions that's uncomfortable, even if that's walking up to strangers or saying hi to someone in the grocery line, or being in an elevator with someone and talking to someone that makes you feel uncomfortable. The more that you can start to build that muscle, the more you start to build trust that eventually on the other side of the discomfort comes the life that we want. So I started the company, ate the shit sandwich for a little bit longer, and here we are. We're rolling, man. We doubled this year, and we're going to double again next year. So it's exciting.
Nice. And so for those that don't know, what do you do with the company?
Yeah, we help sales teams improve their sales skills so they perform at a higher level and close more business. So companies with 50 sales reps or higher, we go in and train them. We write custom sales scripts for them. We help build their entire sales process. For companies who have small sales teams, we have an open platform for them where they can come learn our sales scripts, our sales techniques, the same ones that I use to break the records for Tony Robbins. We give them entire A to Z, the entire sales script that they need in order to win more business. And on the sales agency side, we help people who have their own offers. We have an elite group of sales professionals that sell those high ticket offers for them. And then what we're launching middle way through this year is I have an unlimited network of college professionals who are looking for high quality sales positions. So we're training them on our sales materials, certifying them, giving them sales positions with us so they get experience, and then we're placing them into high paying companies or companies that are looking for young talent that has the education in not just school, but also sales, and has already proven results by selling for us. So they're going to go through our program, sell for us, and then we're going to place them in the high level companies that are looking for young talent.
Man, that's awesome. I want to dive deeper on something specific, but I have a quick story really quickly. Just so I can only imagine how good Brian was with the Tony Robbins brand, because if any of our listeners have never been to a Tony Robbins training, which then, you know, they'll usually encourage you to come to do UPW or something like that. These guys are good. When I was a trainer with Keller Williams, my brother was getting married on the same weekend as UPW, and I was the best man. So I had like rehearsal dinner I had to set up for, I had the whole ceremony, like everything. I couldn't go. But I got into a conversation with the trainer after we were just casually talking, and we were talking about UPW, and he asked such a good line of questioning that I almost didn't go to my brother's wedding. I was like, I need to be here instead. This is like way better use of my time. So I can only imagine how good Brian must have been. I was like, you know what? Like, I'll see him the next day. It's fine.
Yeah, I had engineers. You know, engineers are very kind of C and S
very
personality,
SC,
very like stoic.
Yeah.
I had engineers come up to me afterwards and be like, Brian was great, right? Just completely revved up.
Yeah.
So Brian, we have a bunch of listeners. We've had a number of guests on the show that managed to shake off the W-2 handcuffs and go into multifamily investing full time. We have a number of investors in our network and listeners and stuff that want to make that leap. So if you were to net it down, I think you talked before about building confidence, which I get. I think Ed Milet said once, like, you kind of got to start stacking wins, right, to realize that that's your identity. Yeah. But that's easier said than done. So how do you coach people? What is it that you did yourself, and how do you coach people to take that leap and do the unknown?
Totally. Well, first thing I would tell them is no matter which route you choose, it's going to be hard. Right? Like the person who lives on the street corner, their life is hard. They have problems. They have broke problems. Yeah. Warren Buffett, his life is hard. He has billion-dollar problems. Yeah. No matter which direction you go, life is going to have its shit sandwich that you're going to have to eat regardless. It's just a matter of choosing what quality of problems you want. It's not about not having problems. It's not about not having experiences in life that challenge you. It's about choosing which ones you want. So whether you stay at the W-2 job and you're complaining about your coworkers, or you're unhappy with where you're at, or you're building someone else's dream, that's hard. If you start investing and you start learning a new skill set and you decide that you want to quit the job, that's going to be hard. The payoff is a different level of hard. It's the quality of hard. Which would you rather have? Someone else's hard or your chosen hard? That's the first thing I would say. Back to the stacking, as you referenced to Ed Milet, I just call it life momentum. Like the first thing that I tell people to do, like if it seems insurmountable just to have a great quality day, I start by like, what's the one thing that you can do today? Like making your bed that is going to like prove to yourself that you're going to do what you said you're going to do. A lot of times I talk to other people about just getting uncomfortable. Oftentimes people get stuck in their head. So how do you give yourself activities that, get yourself out of the mundane, like comfortable life, right? I literally, in our programs, we give people the challenge. You got to go talk to a stranger. You actually got to go talk to someone at a line in a grocery store and convince them to pay for something that you want to buy, right? Or we give them the challenge to call restaurants that have full bookings and convince them that you should get one of those bookings, even though there's none available. So like getting them to do the things that are uncomfortable, convincing other people. The number one skill, no matter what profession you're in, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett, I don't care if you're Ed Milet, I don't care if you're Matt or Brian on this podcast. The universal skill of success is the skill of learning how to influence other people. I know AI is coming. I know robots are coming, but the number one person that you have to influence every single day is yourself. To stop hitting the snooze button in the morning, to hit the snooze button on life, to hit the snooze button on your dreams, to hit the snooze button in saying yes or no, to quitting, to saying I do, to say I will. That's the life, man. That's it, convincing yourself. That's influencing yourself to do the things that you don't want to do. When you learn to influence yourself, you can then influence other people. I don't care what your profession is, but you better learn how to get other people to buy in, to other people to say yes, to other people to say I do or I quit. If you can get yourself to do those things, it's easier to get other people to do those too, because you can't fake it forever. But when you walk into a room and you've convinced yourself day after day after day to do things that are uncomfortable, you can walk in a room and say all the wrong things, but everyone's going to say yes to you. because of who you are, not what you say. And so I would implore anyone who's thinking about quitting or thinking about starting their own thing or thinking about investing for the first time is start thinking about the skill and the muscle that you need to build to take uncomfortable action. And then remind yourself that it's going to be hard regardless. You might as well choose the hard.
It's going to be hard regardless, and it's not going to happen overnight. And man, do we love instant gratification in our hyper-connected society today. It's amazing how we can go to the gym and we go home and we don't expect to be jacked after one workout, but we do one hard thing one time. We're like, well, my life didn't work out.
Right.
You know, it's an everyday journey. But you said something earlier that I really want to touch on that actually spoke to me personally, and I think other people very, very deeply is, you know, when you left Tony Robbins, you were no longer Brian with Tony Robbins. You were just Brian. And there is a thing that successful people often struggle with, and that is identity and ego. A lot of people's journeys to where they're trying to get to involve a lot of success and a lot of failure after that success, right? Life does not go in a straight line that points northeast all the time. It's a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. One of the things that I think is very difficult for people that were successful in a business that maybe, you know, ran its course, or they decided they were hitting a ceiling and they wanted to take that leap into something else, is they established an identity as a successful person doing X. And then when X is no longer what they're doing and they're going into the next chapter, they feel very anxious that they don't have that identity as a successful person anymore. And they're going to be judged, or they're starting over, or they're going to have to do things that they feel are beneath them, if it maybe even, right? What do you say to how you can, you know, detach yourself from that ego and that identity that you've built and get back to just being a person and taking action?
100%. You are not results in life. Like, you may think you are, but no one's going to remember you 300-400 years from now. I mean, like the ego is nothing. So you better attach yourself to the person you're becoming and not the results that you've gotten. In addition to that, if you want something to anchor to the more logical instead of mystical, is you're a collection of your patterns, your belief systems, and your habits day to day. And so whether you went from a W-2 job and things were amazing there and you tied your belief system to, like, I don't have to do the grunt work anymore, that's cool, but you already have the patterns for success, or you wouldn't have gotten there. And so those same patterns that got you to this place are going to help you get a leg up in the next thing that you do, because you already know how to wake up, you already know how to make the dials, you already know how to follow up, you already know how to show up with a great attitude, or you wouldn't have found success in the first place. So you can anchor to the habits and the belief systems and the person you become that got you to be just a successful person in general. Then the next thing is, like, name someone in life who's had an exciting life that did one thing their entire life. I guarantee you, if you pick 2 or 3 people right now that you deem successful, they are people who have built themselves multiple lives. They've succeeded in multiple areas of their life. And you find them inspiring because there's something innate inside of you that believes that you can too. Or you wouldn't have that thought, or you wouldn't have had that idea, or you wouldn't be called to listen to a podcast like this. There's a reason why that was planted in you, is because you're capable of it. The other thing that I'd like to mention is, as people start to be the peanut gallery and have comments on your life and say, you know, oh my God, this won't happen, or why are you thinking about that? You already have such a great life. The more you start to get resistance around things that you're going after, that should be a sign you should keep going.
Yeah.
Because I'm very competitive. I know you guys are too, but like, as soon as someone tells me, you know, you shouldn't, I'm like, I already know I beat them. I already know that their resistance, their belief systems, their habits, their patterns haven't gotten to the level that I know I'm capable of getting to. And I'll get there, and then I'll reach my hand out and help those people. But the more I start hearing resistance and people fighting and saying, hey, you shouldn't try this, or trying to tame me down, it's a great sign that I'm heading in the right direction. Because if you do want to create something great, if you want to do something different, most people haven't done it. Most people are not investors, not because they're not capable, but they convince themselves that they're not an investor.
Yes.
It's too hard, and they don't have enough money,
Yes.
or they don't have the time,
Yes.
right? I listened to something by Grant Cardone a while ago, right? And it's like, people say they don't have time, or they don't have money. And he's like, I wake up earlier and I create time.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, I didn't buy the jet to be flashy about it, but now I can get anywhere I want to much quickly, and like no lines and no TSA, none of that stuff. So I just create more time and I create more opportunity. And because I create more time to make more money, I have more money. Right. And it's just like this, you just start eliminating objections. And I think that is something that like we can all do better. Right. We don't have time. We don't have money. We don't have leads. We don't have the network. Okay. Well, how do you fix that?
Yeah.
Right.
We have this resistance to the idea that in a very complex world that things are actually relatively binary. What are you going to do today? And that's what's going to determine your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we make excuses for why we're not going to do the things we already probably know we need to do, especially in sales. Like I'm in the residential real estate sales business. It's a business littered with people who just aren't doing the things that they absolutely know they need to do. If you ask any of the 1.6 million realtors in America what they need to do to be successful, they'll tell you in plain English. It's not a secret. But there's only like 300,000 of them that make a really decent living doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so like what you're saying, like it's really not about more knowing. Once you already know, you already know. It's about doing.
It's about doing. It's about taking action, right? And I think that's honestly, that's why people sometimes get intimidated by me, right? And turned off by me, because I'm always like, oh, you need more money? Pick up the phone, right? You need to buy a new car? Pick up the phone. It's like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street, right? You got no money, you're getting evicted, pick up the phone and start dialing. And it's like, you just have to do the work. You have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to do the work. And when you do that, it's still not going to be easy, right? But you'll be making little steps every day. And I was on a podcast recently about what's a great day in sales. It's moving the ball further down the field. And I think, you know, we can't score touchdowns every day. If you score touchdowns every day, you're too good at your sport, and it's time for you to go do something else at a higher level, right? But you got to move the ball downfield, whether it's making that phone call, making that connection, taking an investor out to lunch, right? Calling a broker, taking them out to coffee, going to tour a property, right? Underwriting a deal, whatever. Right? Going to ask somebody for money for the first time. Holy shit.
Yeah.
If I hear that one more time, be like, I don't know if I can raise money. How many people have you asked? None.
I'm too scared. You're like,
why?
What?
The worst thing they can do is say no. Right?
Yeah.
They're probably still going to want to have coffee or a beer with you after saying no. You're not going to, like, unless you're a total dick about it.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to start somewhere.
And we have this idea, especially when it comes just to that actionable step, like raising money, because there's a lot of people that listen to our podcast that are probably trying to raise money, right? Like everybody feels that way at first, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the first time that you realize that your LOI got accepted and you've got to go raise $2 million, like, and you've never done it before, it doesn't matter how successful you are in anything else. You still have to pick up the phone and call people and ask for money. You just got to do it. Right. And by the way, you're doing something that if you've done your job, you're not asking for money, you're actually providing an opportunity, so that helps you be a hell of a lot more confident. But like, talk about pulling the band-aid off.
Agreed.
You have to just do it, man.
You just got to do it. You got to have enough people to call, and you got to be educated enough to sound intelligent and be able to understand their objections and their life situations and how to kind of talk them through that, which leads me to, kind of back to Brian. Is I heard you say once, Brian, and I think this is kind of one of your thesis for your curriculum, right? Is that everything is a sale.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything in life is sales.
Right. So tell us how you arrived there and how you use that as a kind of a core tenet of the service that you deliver today.
Yeah, I'll give everyone an example, and then I'll give you something tactical if you're someone who is in sales or in a certain level of influence. If you're not driving, just close your eyes really quick. In 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. And now I want you to look around. Anything in the room that you're in or outside that's not a tree or a plant that wasn't sold. Can you find anything that you're looking at that wasn't sold? Ooh. I didn't think so. And if you're looking at your husband or wife, oh, trust me, you sold them. They didn't know you drooled. Okay? They didn't know how you smell after you work out. You sold them. Everything in life is influence.
Yep.
Everything in life is influence. And it starts with ourselves. So back to Matt, when you said, what is a good sales day? One thing that I teach to go into companies is I teach this framework called MAV plus and MAV minus. MAV plus stands for maximum acceptable value. MAV minus stands for minimum acceptable value. If there is one tactical thing that your audience can take away in every situation that you go into, networking event, dinner, coffee, phone call, whatever it is, you should know what your maximum acceptable value that you want in return is. Meaning, if you're making that phone call and you're looking for a $2 million investment, your MAV plus is someone been like, boom, I'm ready to invest. Send me all the details. I'm ready to do it today. That's your MAV plus. Where most people get hung up on is if they don't get the outcome that they want, they get discouraged. And they start to get discouraged and they start to feel like a failure. They start to either blame other people or they start to blame themselves or start to question their own abilities. And that's when people lose confidence. But what we want to do is we want to put guardrails on it. You want your MAV minus. What is the minimum value that I'm willing to walk away with? If I don't get the $2 million, what's the next best piece of value that I can get from this person on this call? If I don't get that piece of value, what's the next best piece of value? You should have your check downs on value. Just like when you go bowling and you teach a child to bowl for the first time, you put guardrails on it so they at least knock down one pin. In every situation, and speaking of moving the ball down the field, in every single situation that you're in, you should know, okay, what do I want? Why do I want it? And why is that important to me? And if I don't get that, what's the next best thing that I can get? And if I don't get that, what's the next best thing that I can get? And I'll leave the tactical thing with this. There should be no situation that you ever walk into where you're indebted to someone else's value. In every situation that you walk in, you should be putting them in value debt, meaning you gave them more than you ever asked in return. And by doing that, trust me, more people will say yes to you.
Man, that's phenomenal advice, man. I appreciate all the tactical advice because we have a lot of high level conversations on this in most podcasts. But if you didn't get all that, rewind at least 25, 30 minutes and go back to listen to all the actionable advice because it's been fantastic, man.
Agreed. Truly. So listen, we're coming up on time here, Brian, and we want to be considerate of yours. This is the first More Doors podcast of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we have a bright year and tons of opportunity ahead for a guy that's gone through some enormous transitions in life. And you know, I believe from afar that you are living your best life right now, right? And you're watching you grow, and you're personally in this business has been very inspiring for me. What kind of tidbits or guidance or advice would you give our audience on how to make 2024 their best year yet?
Yeah, thank you for the compliments. I'll continue to grow and continue to eat shit sandwiches as long as I live. And tactical advice is, it's very simple. Most of you guys are on Instagram or some type of social media, or you take pictures everywhere. Go through every single month from 2023, and I want you to pick your top 5 pictures or moments. What you're going to find is those are going to be your sell up moments, or you can call them live up moments, whatever they are. They're moments where you said, I do, I will, I'm starting, or they're moments where you spent it with very important people in your life, people that you love and care for. What you're looking to do is create some type of pattern recognition. Where people get tripped up and lost is they aren't paying attention to the patterns that got them to where they want to go and the patterns that are required to go where they need to be. How you do that is you find those moments every single month that are highlight moments, those sell up moments, those live up moments in your life, and you write them all down from January all the way through December. And what you'll find is there's a common theme around the things that make you happy, the things that make you feel successful, the things that give you pride or joy, or the feelings that you want. And then you say, okay, well, what's going to bring me more of that as I go into 2024? Now that's called pattern creation. Uncovering, well, where do I want to be at the end of 2024? And what are the things that are going to help me feel and experience the way that I want to? And implement and schedule in those patterns throughout 2024 so that you're not trying to motivate yourself to get to the outcome, but you're instead have the patterns and the habits that will get you there. And you can do that in 30 minutes or you can do it in 3 hours. Usually it takes me 4 hours because I'm really in depth with it. But finding the patterns that got you to where you want to go that you're proud of, finding the patterns that got you here that you're not proud of, which ones you need to eliminate and which ones you need to create in order to get to where you want to go in 2024.
Awesome, dude.
I feel like we should do that.
We are totally doing
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Bring lady over and we'll do it.
Yeah.
I like
Let's
it.
do it together.
All right. I'm into it.
That'd be fantastic, dude.
I'd invite Nick too, but he's already said no.
He just wants to be invited.
He did. Brian, this has been absolutely phenomenal, man. I can't thank you enough for finding time to spend with us and our audience. How do people find you, and how can we help support you?
I appreciate you. WeSellUp.com. If you decide to jump on a call with one of us, we'll do a free sales audit for your sales process. The first 5 people will write your scripts for you.
Oh, fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about socials? Where are you at?
Just Brian Mayoral all over the place. Come find me. Shoot me a message. Let me know that you're on the More Doors podcast, and we'll do the same. We'll set you up for a sales audit or write your scripts for you.
Nice. Force, you want to take us home or close out with our guest?
Do it, man. Brian, seriously, appreciate the time and all the insight, man. This has been fantastic. We'll have to have you back on. And we'll have to have you guys back next week for episode 28.
I think we should have Brian at our next party.
Let's do it. We do throw the best parties.
We do throw the best parties.
So the best parties.
Yes.
And we'll get Tour Studios there to film it all. Go to
Already RSVP.
There we go. He says easy yes. I love it.
Love it.
So check out TORETourstudios.com for all your podcast and multimedia content needs. And then head on over to deepbluere.com to continue or start your wealth building journey. Episode 27 in the books, brother. And it was a freaking fantastic one to start a fantastic year.
I completely agree. And look, a heartfelt thank you to Brian. Dude, I mean this when I say it, man. I understate how much of an impact you've had in my life, in my personal life, my professional life, and I owe you a huge debt of gratitude, brother. So thank you very much. And I really do. I don't hope. I know that someone in our audience or someone listening to the show is going to feel that same way after getting to know you for longer than this show. So thank you for everything that you've done, both knowingly and unknowingly for me. I appreciate it.
The feelings are mutual, brother. I appreciate you guys having me on and thinking of me. And I'm here to support you every step of the way. I love you both, and I appreciate you for everything.
Thanks, Brian.
Talk soon.
Talk soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Let's go.